on Business Incorporated today. International Monetary Fund effects the largest expansion of its reserve in history. It approves $650 billion to fight pandemic. Egypt Stock Exchange to launch a new index today. In Zimbabwe, more than 14,000 farmers have already registered to grow tobacco next year. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwawala. Let's begin with the intraday market numbers. Here in Africa, the Nigerian market was the only one in the positive territory at intraday. Its share index added 0.23%. JSE in South Africa traded sideways at intraday, down 0.28%. Egypt shared even more, down 0.45%, while Kenya lost 0.77% as at the close of trade on Monday. And still talking about the market, Egypt Stock Exchange, EGX, will launch a new index today. The new index is to track listed and traded government treasury bonds. The new index will comprise the most liquid bonds on the stock market. The market value of the bond will determine the weight of each issuance within the index. The index will take into account both the return resulting from the change in the prices of the bond and the return resulting from the accrued coupons. This will reflect the total return for the performance of the government bonds that make up the index. In addition, the EJX will also launch 4 sub-indices for treasury bonds soon, which will be determined according to the different maturity periods. Meanwhile, the country's non-oil private sector activity saw weaker conditions in July as output and new orders receded. IHS Markit Egypt Purchasing Managers Index declined from 49.9 in June to 49.1 in July, below the 50 neutral mark, as output and demand dropped for the 7th time in 8 months. Rates of declines were less marked than those observed between March and May and during the first half of 2020. In the Middle East, it's a bright trading day in the Middle East. All the markets to track were in the green zone at intraday. Abu Dhabi was up 0.39%, while Dubai inched 0.19%. Elsewhere in Saudi Arabia, the Tadawul index gained 0.24% and was closely followed by the Qatari market, which was trading in the green, up 0.25%. Move over to Europe now. Stocks in Europe extended a record advance today as positive earnings from some of the region's biggest companies helped offset fresh concerns about China's clampdown on the technology sector. But we have Ashutosh joining us from Frankfurt to tell us more about that and other developments in Europe. Hello, Ashutosh. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nini.
Yeah. So we have car makers posting strong results, even as they reel from shortage of semiconductors. What's driving this success in spite of this shortage we've been talking about for months?
Absolutely. It's crazy. They're basically benefiting from strong demand for their cars, and they've been acting smartly. What they've done is that they've actually prioritized manufacturing of higher-end cars. Now, higher-end cars do have higher profit margins. So when there is this scarcity of raw materials and a paucity of semiconductors, they've been building higher-end cars, and that has meant more profits for them. And the other thing is that because of this such a huge demand, and companies have been affected because of the shortage of semiconductors. They've cut down on production, so there's just not enough supply. So that has given them an opportunity to these car makers to actually bump up their prices a bit, and that again augurs well for the bottom line. So that is how they've been performing so well despite all the adversities we've been talking about. BMW has been one of those less affected car makers because it has some really strong relations with its suppliers, and but this car company itself is now concerned. It says that things are not going to be as rosy as they were in the second quarter, and it has warned that its performance could take a hit because of the semiconductor crisis and the shortage of raw materials. And that's precisely why BMW stock was in fact, the worst performers on DAX, down almost 4%.
Well, this shortage has certainly affected costs of industry as producers' prices is climbing in Eurozone. And so while the car makers are making the most of it, it's not so good for the producers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason why, the producer prices going up only means that the inflation would go up at a later date. And that's a worry for the bloc. Already inflation is hovering above 2%. We were talking about this just yesterday, that construction costs have gone up. Some of the sectors, like auto industry, has also been transferring some of the cost to end consumers. The retailers have so far been cautious because they don't really have that much room to maneuver. But sooner or later, there are warnings that they may have to increase the prices because the prices of their own costs are going up. Shipping costs have gone through the roof, and that's going to be a worrying sign as far as inflation in the region is concerned.
Yeah, and shares in Tencent took a major beating after Chinese state media branded online video game spiritual opium, well, stoking a concern of crackdown on the sector. What does this mean for the Chinese tech?
Well, what it means for Tencent would actually depend on what kind of crackdown follows. Now, if you go by the investor reaction, they certainly feel that there's going to be a major crackdown, and that's the reason why we saw such a major sell-off in Tencent shares. They are not taking any commentary by state media lightly. And it has been in the past that when state media says something, it has been actually, especially when it comes to video games, it hasn't really been the first time that they are under the scrutiny they've been in the past, and that has actually led to authorities clamping down on the industry. Tencent itself has actually faced some of those actions. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is that there are other people who feel that perhaps Tencent would be a little insulated from any crackdown, even if it was to take place. And that's because they say that because of the past admonitions that it has got, because of the past actions by the authorities, Tencent has actually made efforts to limit or control the usage of, or control its games as far as younger players are concerned. It has, in fact, even this time around, it has pledged that it is going to further tighten controls for younger players. Kids would not be allowed to play more than 1 hour of video game per weekday and perhaps 2 hours on the weekends. So that's the pledge that Tencent has made. So the commentary, which has actually been now removed from the internet, it's only available in the paper version. So that commentary has already had an impact on Tencent, with Tencent pledging already for further controls on video gamers.
Well, talking about crackdown in the tech industry, we wonder what step they will take next. Well, thank you so much, Ashutosh, for giving us updates from Europe. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
So move on now to the UK, where we have Juliana standing by in our studio to also give us updates from there. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ini.
Yeah, so we have energy company BP is about to hand over shares of €1 billion through share buybacks. A great time to be an investor in BP. And it seems that even the Delta variant is not stopping this winning streak.
Absolutely not. It's been a great 6 months for the oil major. They've updated their shareholders today, showing that profit for the first 6 months of the year have come in at £4.1 billion. And if you compare that to this time last year, they were reporting losses of billions of pounds. And that's because the price of a barrel of Brent crude was trading below £0. It was an absolute stonker for the oil industry. But as demand is increasing, we are now starting to see prices skyrocketing. And in fact, they're saying for Q3, they expect profits to be marginally higher. For shareholders, they've got a handsome payday. Dividend has increased by 4%. And this is quite good for them. I know shareholders don't usually get blessed in this kind of way. But of course, last year, the dividend was slashed, and that was because they wanted to make sure they had enough money in their coffers to keep them going. Similar result we saw from Royal Dutch Shell. They've also given a pretty handsome reward to their investors, and they're one of the biggest risers on the FTSE All-Share today.
And there's a call for action because of shortage of drivers in the supermarket. Meanwhile, we have Greggs said to create 500 jobs as it plans 100 more stores. What's their secret?
Yeah, Greggs are doing very, very well. What's their secret? Well, according to some, it's their vegan sausage rolls, although I've never personally had one, but it is very, very popular, and probably as well the price tag. If you're working in central London, it's much cheaper to buy from Greggs than it is to buy from any of their other competitors. And today's update just shows why they're doing so well. In the past 6 months, they've actually returned to pre-pandemic profits. Profits came in at £55.1 million, similarly to BP this time last year. They reported millions of pounds worth of losses. Bosses are citing, of course, the opening up of the economy, although they are a little bit sceptical because they are seeing that even though footfall is increasing in some areas, in transport hubs and closer to train stations, they are seeing footfall still very, very low. But they do have a handsome profit, and the 500 jobs is part of their expansion plan. They've been expanding over the past couple of years, and they are going to be opening an extra 100 stores by the end of this year. So those 500 jobs fall into that category.
And how is the market trading at this time?
The markets are good. The FTSE opened up in positive territory. It's still there at intraday. The all-share is up 0.41%. The FTSE 100 is up by 0.49%. And the FTSE 250, the domestic market, that's up by 0.43%. In the currencies market, the British pound is up on the US dollar by 0.21%, up on the euro by 0.11%, and up on the Japanese yen by 0.07% at intraday.
All right. Thank you so much, Juliana, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Annie.
So we move on where the governing body of the International Monetary Fund has approved $650 billion expansion in the agency's resources to support economically vulnerable countries battling the coronavirus pandemic and the economic downturn it has caused. This increases the institution's lending capacity by $650 billion and is the last step in approving an initiative to boost aid to the most vulnerable countries. The 190-nation lending institution said its board of governors approved the expansion of its reserves known as special drawing right, the largest increase in the institution's history. Well, let's find out what this means to the African continent and Nigeria. We have Mr. Oju Demezue to join us later to discuss that. We do hope to get him before the program is over. Well, let's move on to Asia now, where stocks in Asia Pacific were mixed in early trade, with Hong Kong listed shares of firms in the Chinese online gaming market plummeting after the activity was described as a type of opium. Remember, we talked about that earlier by Chinese state media. The Hang Seng Tech Index declined 1.55%. Hong Kong's brother Hang Seng Index dipped 0.33% as of its final hour of trading. Mainland Chinese stocks closed lower as the Shanghai Composite declined 0.47% to 3,447.99, while the Shenzhen Component fell 0.41% to 14,736.92. The Nikkei 225 in Japan slipped 0.5% to close at 27,641.83, while the Topix Index shed 0.46% to end the trading day at 1,931.14. In Australia, the S&P X 200 shed 0.23% on the day to 7,474.50. Shares of Afterpay saw more gains on Tuesday, jumping 11.37%. The firm's stock surged 19% on Monday after U.S. fintech firm Square announced it had agreed to buy the buy now, pay later giant. Okay, I believe we have Mr. Demezue now to talk to us about this new expansion by the IMF. Hello, Mr. Demezue. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and you?
I'm doing well. Thank
Great.
God.
Good to have you on the show. Well, $650 billion to help vulnerable countries. What impact should we expect on the continent coming from the IMF?
Well, that's a huge amount. Actually, I tried to confirm if that amount is correct because IMF total limit is actually $1 trillion. So for 600 billion is so huge. That's quite abnormal from the figures I've seen them roll out in the past. But if that is a true position, then it's a huge amount of money which we will, hopefully see impacting countries. Maybe that's on the special drawing rights of nations or the rapid finance facility that they give to countries around the world. And that means that Nigeria may be able to get some more concessionary lending from IMF at this time to support the devastation that COVID has caused in the economy. So the impact will be huge if approvals are given to countries like Nigeria, at this moment, because we need all the money we can get to support the economy, knowing, of course, that we have to apply this money properly in the way our economy is run to support not just the health sector, but other sectors that need strong support at this point to enable us grow. We are at this point at the precipice, with the economy struggling to record even the lowest possible growth at this time.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Odemezue. And we do hope, Nigeria already has some money coming from the supplementary budget to also help buffer the effects of COVID-19. So we do hope this gets to Nigeria. And like you said, that it's used well. Thank you so much, the CEO of Flame Academy, sharing your thoughts with us on that.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. My pleasure.
You're welcome. So we'll take a break now. After the break, we'll discuss commodities market update. To stay with us is Business Incorporated on Channels Television. You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. Over to our commodities market update now. And we're talking about locust beans. Well, African locust beans is a black, strong, smelly seasoning, which is rich in lipid, protein, and carbohydrate. It helps to boost immune system, relieve diseases like diarrhea, diabetes, and reduce the chance of heart attack. These health benefits have made it a source of food, traditional medicine, and remedy for several ailments. Both the fruit, the seed, the leaves, the nuts, the pods, the essential oils of the African locust are highly valuable. Well, a report by the National Bureau of Statistics notes that over $200 million is spent annually on imported food flavor, with a projection of 15% annual future increase. This is in competition with locust beans. We don't have to spend that much to import flavor if we use locust beans. Well, let's talk more about the economic benefits and potentials of locust beans. We have Favor Oguniroye, a research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, telling us about this. Hello, Favor. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
So we know about the health benefits and we know what the NBS said. How about $200 million is spent on importing food flavor, which we can, dive back to locust beans. But what are some of the other economic potentials of locust beans in Nigeria?
Just like you said, locust beans is generally used as a substitute here in Nigeria a substitute to seasoning cubes here in Nigeria due to the health benefits. So there is an increase in the demand for this product locally. And looking at it internationally, there is that export potential there. So we, as in Nigeria here, there is that opportunity to export this product to the growing Nigerians in diaspora, that population there is that opportunity to take advantage of. And also, if you look at the locust beans trees, it produces a fruit, and this fruit you can either derive the seeds, which is used for the local beans, popularly known as iru, or the sweet pulp, and that sweet pulp is something that can be refined into processed drinks. And also, so basically these are the things that Nigeria can leverage on in order to boost the export potential of locust beans.
So when we talk about the export potential, then we talk about processing, the value chain and all that. How is that? Does that chain even exist in Nigeria at this time?
Usually, locust beans is processed in rural areas, and normally the process involves getting the seeds from the market, boiling them for long hours, and even then peeling off the coats of the seeds using the back of your feet, and also fermenting it before selling. But then, since we're talking about it being an export product, that means this locust beans has to be refined into something that can be easily transported. So it probably has to be processed into like a dry form or a powdered form, and that will involve acquisition of machines in order to improve the quality, because you also need to meet regulatory standards as well. So you need to import machines that will improve the quality, that also increase the quantity as well, because this is something you're exporting to people out there. So that's what the value chain process will be like.
Okay, but I don't really think we have that working now. But what do you see as FDC? What do you see as the long-term export potential of locust beans?
Locust beans is currently at its growth stage here. Growth stage right now. So what will push the export of this product, the increase in the export of this product, is definitely the obvious one, an increase in the population of Africans in diaspora, and also the growing globalization, the growing recognition of African dishes as well. And especially if you consider companies now infusing local ingredients in order to form seasoning cubes. So that's something that can boost the market for locust beans.
All right. Thank you so much, Favor, for sharing your thoughts with us on locust beans this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
So we move to Zimbabwe now, where more than 14,000 farmers have already registered to grow tobacco in Zimbabwe next year. Of these, 7,537 are communal farmers, 4,871 are A1 farmers, 817 small-scale farmers, and 882 farmers. Mashonaland Central has the highest number with 5,744 registered farmers, followed by Mashonaland West with 5,307. And Angola and Ghana are set to boost the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area to favor economic dependence on commodity exports. That's according to both presidents. The creation of AfCFTA took into account the need for African states to look inward in search of internal solutions to achieve their development goals. Africa has the largest reserves of mineral resources in the world, but its nations are just only potentially rich, since most of the wealth comes from its territory. Well, just before we go, let's go to the oil market. Crude oil prices reverse course after early bounce today as concerns over coronavirus curves combined with slowing factory activity in key markets weighed on sentiment. Brent crude oil futures shed 5 cents to $72.84 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 0.1%, which is 8 cents at $71.18 a barrel. Both markets dropped more than 3% yesterday. Elsewhere, U.S. crude and product inventories likely declined last week, with both distillate and gasoline stockpiles predicted to have fallen for a third straight week. Gold prices were subdued also today as the dollar held steady while investors avoided taking big positions ahead of the key U.S. non-farm payrolls data due later this week. Although growing concerns over rising coronavirus cases limited decline. Spot gold fell 0.2% to $1,810.56 per ounce, while U.S. gold futures fell 0.5% to $1,813.80. SPDR Gold Trust, the world's largest gold-backed exchange-traded fund, said that its holdings also fell 0.2% to 1,029.71 tons on Monday from 1,031.46 tons on Friday. Silver fell down also 0.4% to 25.33 per ounce, while palladium rose 0.2% to 2,680.32. And platinum was also down 0.6% to 1,050.83. Well, that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ini John Mekwa.